And now I have the opportunity to make an introduction. You all remember when the Tea Party Patriots started lighting up America? It was the Tea Party Patriots. And you saw things happen, say, for example, when Barack Obama shoved Obamacare down our throat. And by the way, Ted Cruz will rip that out by the roots, too. I forgot to tell you that. Well, that rose up the Tea Party Patriots, and it was always about the membership of the Tea Party Patriots, but somebody's got to make sure that all the trains run on time and organize and have an inspiration and carry a spirit within her. And when you saw on video, as tens of thousands of people came into Washington, D.C., surrounded the Capitol, and said, "Keep your hands off our health care," that was led by Jenny Beth Martin of the Tea Party Patriots. And for the first time in the history of the United States of America, people came into that city, 40 to 60,000 people, and surrounded the Capitol building for the first time in history. Not just a human chain by touching our fingers, 6 and 8 deep, all the way around the Capitol building, a human donut all the way around the Capitol, thousands in the corners. That was Jenny Beth Martin that lights these things up. And when it's time to protest against the Iran bad deal of Obama's, that's Jenny Beth Martin that's there too. Every time I turn around, my great friend is there leading the battle. She is an emerging icon for America. Please welcome Jenny Beth Martin of the Tea Party Patriots.
We're good. Thank you so much, Steve. Good evening. I stand before you tonight with my colleagues from Tea Party Patriots, local coordinators and supporters from all over our country who've taken time to leave their homes and travel to this place to join me tonight to share with you a decision the grassroots supporters of the largest Tea Party group in the country made. We left our homes and traveled to this place because we share a concern. We share a concern for our futures, the futures of our families, of our communities, and of our nation. We share the belief that America's story is a story of exceptionalism, a story of a people who made a radical break with the past, who declared their joint conviction that rights flow to them naturally from their Creator, that the government was their servant, not the other way around. A people who were so determined to create a new governing structure based on this fundamental creed that they declared their independence from the greatest military power the world had ever known. And then they risked their lives, their fortunes, their sacred honor to achieve freedom for themselves and for their posterity. And in unleashing that freedom, they were rewarded with bounty and splendor. They created a nation that moved more people out of poverty and into wealth. They did more to end disease and create better health. They was more generous, not just to its own less fortunate, but to the less fortunate of other countries too, than any nation the world has ever known. Please take a moment with me right now just to say thanks to the Almighty, because we're blessed to call ourselves American. But our future is uncertain. Decisions made by those in Washington, by both Democrats and Republicans, have transformed the nature of the relationship between the citizen and the government. They tax too much, they spend too much, and they borrow way too much. And it's not just about the money. The money is important, but it's what that money represents. The money represents power and control. And when Washington has too much power and control, we, the people, don't have enough of it. And that's not the American way. We know our future is brighter. It always has been before. We're Americans, after all. We're the sons and daughters of the American Revolution. We built a railroad that spanned a continent and invented air travel and saved the world from democracy not once but 2 times in the last century. We harnessed the power of the atom. We put man on the moon, cured diseases, and helped bring down the Berlin Wall. And if that wasn't enough, in our spare time, we invented baseball and blue jeans and rock and roll and Star Wars and Google and YouTube and the iPhone. We know we have it in our power to unleash a second American century for our children. All we need are the leaders who know the path and are willing to show America the way. Tea Party Patriots represent millions of Americans who've become supporters of the Tea Party movement. We first began to organize ourselves 7 years ago. We were alarmed at a government that was growing too big, too invasive, too powerful. The bailouts, the debt, cap and trade, Obamacare, and the list goes on. We know a government that's big enough to give you everything you want is big enough to take everything you have. And when we started, we didn't have the financial resources of many other groups, but we did have heart, and we were determined to make DC listen. Our supporters drove overnight to attend rallies at our nation's capital, like the one that Steve King just mentioned. And in fact, some of our supporters, the weekend that Obamacare was passed, couldn't afford to spend money on yet another hotel in Washington, and they slept in their cars to make sure DC understood how much we were opposed to the government taking over our health care. We marched in the rain and the snow. We've protested in the sweltering summer heat in that swampland of Washington. And we quickly had an impact on American politics. It was our supporters championing our values that flipped the House of Representatives in 2010. The president's supporters and the bureaucracy took note, and they schemed to deploy the machinery of government against us. The most feared agency in the federal Leviathan, the IRS, sicked itself against us and our donors. And the plan worked. We were largely sidelined for the duration of the 2012 election, so few championed our values and our voices were silenced. In 2013, Lois Lerner admitted to the illegal targeting of Tea Party groups, and our movement was energized once more. We had an impact on the campaigns of 2014 when we helped do for the Senate what we had done for the House 4 years earlier. Republicans on Capitol Hill now control their largest majority in the House since Herbert Hoover was president because of our values. And now we turn our gaze to the horizon, to the 2016 elections. We seek a candidate who shares our values and will champion and promote our principles: personal freedom, economic freedom, and a debt-free future. We know we stand no chance of repealing Obamacare and expanding personal freedom unless there is a courageous conservative in the White House. We know we stand no chance of reforming the tax code and unleashing the American economy to increase our economic freedom unless there's a courageous conservative in the White House. We know we stand no chance of stopping Washington's spending spree and getting started on a debt-free future unless there's a courageous conservative in the White House. So 6 months ago, through our political arm, Tea Party Patriots Citizens Fund, we asked our supporters if they wanted us to engage in an endorsement in the presidential nomination contest, and they overwhelmingly said yes. We invited candidates to complete and return a questionnaire so our supporters could research them. We posted information on our website. We organized webinars, circulated emails, and we made phone calls, and I've had more conversations than I can even remember. It's important to us that we remain a united movement so that our influence in this process is strong. And it's also important to us at Tea Party Patriots Citizens Fund that this is a grassroots endorsement. So we decided the only way we can make an endorsement was if a supermajority of our supporters voted for one candidate. And 4 weeks ago, we launched this process. Since then, we've had 4 rounds of balloting and over 100,000 ballots have been cast. And tonight, on behalf of millions of our supporters, I'm honored to announce our endorsement for a man who has the courage and the trustworthiness necessary to lead our nation. A man who has a proven track record of standing up and fighting for our values no matter the opposition. A man who's demonstrated his word is his bond, and he can be counted on to follow through on his promises to his voters. A man who understands and who loves our Constitution and defends America and America's exceptionalism. And a man who can and will lead us into the next American century. On behalf of Tea Party Patriots Citizens Fund and our supporters, I'm proud to announce our endorsement for President of the United States, our friend, Senator Ted Cruz.